Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Doctor Music Podcast once again. Thank you very much to my subscribers. As always, you make all of this happen. I can't bring you great guests like the one I have today without you. I have Siegfried Samer with me. Siggy is the singer for Dragony, a symphonic power metal band based in Austria. They started as the Dragonslayer Project in 2007 and would change the name to Dragony in time for their debut album Legends in 2012. And they've been busy over that time. Siegfried and Dragony are set to release their fifth record now. It's called Hic Svnt Dracones on October 11th on the Steamhammer SPV record label. And Siggy, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Hic Svnt Dracones. Here be dragons.
That's right.
Yeah, and you guys always take us on a journey. I hesitate to say concept record, but there's always it's the full record is a piece of history with fantasy injected into it, with mystical worlds and monsters and things like that. It's so much fun. It's always great. What's the inspiration? How does that work with you? What's the writing process? Who brings in the idea? And like this time you're working with the New World and the North American theme in my neck of the woods. How does that come about? Does somebody just come in one day and say, "Hey, let's do North America for this one"? How's that all work for you?
Yeah, it's funny because up until the previous record, Viribus Unitis, we've not really done this kind of history stuff. It's been more of a focus on pop culture themes, books, movies, video games, etc. But with the last one, we wanted to do something different, and so we went into the Austrian history actually, because the times of Emperor Francis Joseph, Empress Sissi, that's still very much popular here and very, I would say, glorified a little bit. Those times, the late 19th century, fin de siècle. And we wanted to do something different about it to make still the most Austrian power metal album, but put our own twist on it. So we made this kind of alternate history with fantasy and magic and whatnot sprinkled in. And for the new album, we wanted to go into a similar route because I had this phrase in my head from, old sea charts, that have been used, this Hic Svnt Dracones, here be dragons. Because it fits for a band called Dragony, right? And Ironically, this is actually the first album we have with anything like dragons in the title and a dragon on the artwork. Like the fifth album in, I think it was about time for a band like Dragony to have that.
Absolutely.
And so I figured, okay, Hic Svnt Dracones, this was used on sea charts. So what better time to set the new story in than like we did the late 16th century of the British privateers, Sir Walter Raleigh, Sir Francis Drake, and the colonization of the North American continent by the British. And that's how we start with this mysterious lost colony of Roanoke, the second colony that vanished or disappeared, basically. And we explain this disappearance with our own twist again, with this like Jules Verne, journey to a land forgotten by time, where dragons, so dinosaurs, basically still exist, and where also Viking tribes live now because they experienced a similar fate 1,000 years earlier. So what we tried to do was basically mix up all of the most popular genre cliches and tropes in power metal today, from pirates and privateers over dragons and dinosaurs to the ever popular Vikings and Norse mythology. And so we tried to create the most power metal album that way.
And it's really great. Like I say, I mean, it's so much fun to, it's a start, middle, finish. It's a movie, without.
Yeah, it is a concept album, like you said, for sure, because every song describes a little bit of part of the story. Of course, there's not a song for every moment because that would be a bit overboard. But in generally, that's the idea, and similar to Viribus Unitis, and that's why we also went with another Latin title for this album.
Yeah, and it's great. I love that too. It gives me a challenge with my tongue to get that out there. But when you're coming up with this, are you the guy who brings it in?
Yeah. So I mean, the general concept is in this case very much my idea. With Viribus Unitis, the whole thing started with Cyberpunk Joseph instead of Kaiser Franz Josef, which actually came from our bass player, and I built the story around that. But Hic Svnt Dracones is just my brainchild. And generally, I write all the lyrics. I also write the vocal lines together with our producer in the studio. The songwriting process can be a little bit different. Sometimes, the guitarist or keyboarder or even myself would bring some ideas. And usually I work out the ideas with our producer in the studio, Frank Pitters. He's our producer. He's been with us since the beginning. He's basically our 7th band member. And yeah, we just work on all the stuff together. And that's how we kind of work out all the kinks for all the songs and all the details and arrangements directly in his studio.
Yeah, it's brilliant, brilliant what you do. I love it. And you mentioned your bass player. I gotta mention that Herbert Close.
Yeah.
He's still in Visions of Atlantis.
Yes.
Recently saw him, and you were in Visions of Atlantis. For people who aren't aware, 2013 to 2018.
That's right.
You leave the band for the touring cycle. It was getting a little big. Your day job is one you want to keep. That just wasn't working out for you with your responsibilities at home and the 9 to 5.
Yeah. That's right.
That's a very specific position for somebody in you now you have Dragony is that middle tier to where it's not a garage band for sure, but it's it's not Metallica and playing this huge.
It's not a full-time touring band, yeah.
Right. But that's what you need. Right? I mean, you're content with that.
Yeah.
So my question, I guess, is there a scenario with Dragony, say, this album just takes off and you get to that upper tier and they want you to tour for a year, 2 years on the road touring the world? That's trouble for you, isn't it?
But the thing is, like, in order to do, I mean, the thing is, in our genre, it's not that anybody is paying for our touring, so we paid it out of our own pocket. So if we want to take it on tour, that's on us. To do it that extensively, and yeah, just with the rest of my band, there is really not that appetite for anybody to do it. Either they don't have the time, just like me, or they don't have the money. They might have the time, but they don't have the money. So that's always the issue. And only if you are willing to invest both the time and the money, then you can go into the, let's say, full-time touring cycle, like Visions of Atlantis have done. They've invested a lot of money, a lot of time, took a lot of risks, of course. Of course, they had a bit of support because of Thomas being in the band, like with Napalm Records, they were for sure backing them in the beginning, and that helped. But if you don't have that, then it's a risky step to take. And like, I'm not 20 years old anymore. So if I was, I would probably say, okay, let's try it. Let's do 2-3 years, full throttle and see where it takes us. But now I turned 40 this year and I'm like, okay, I have a pretty decent job, which is also in the music business, so it still stays kind of close to the heart, and I'm pretty okay with that. Of course, it would be great to grow the band a bit bigger, get nicer festival slots, get a bit more return on the investment. But that's kind of the trade-off you have to do and to decide on. Okay, how much am I willing to invest, and what do I expect back out of it?
Yeah, but I think it's great. I think it's so interesting because you have bands that are they want that big, huge thing, but you're very content, comfortable. The music shows it. It's well written, it's thought out, and it's just you have a great situation. I don't know many musicians who were in the garage bands in high school and things like that in college, and it didn't make it, and they play on the weekends and they're thrilled to death.
Yeah, exactly.
At the local clubs, or you have that times 100, because this is just a great, successful band, and you reach so many people with it. It's great.
We still got to do a lot of cool stuff over the years, even though we're not the full-time touring band. We still had a number of great festival shows from places like Nova Rock in Austria or Wacken, or even 70,000 Tons of Metal we were able to do back in 2019. Last October we did a small headlining tour in Mexico. For whatever reasons that happened, but it happened and it was nice, a great experience. So there's still cool stuff happening. So yeah, we're definitely, like you said, not the pure underground band, but we're also not the full-time touring band. We're somewhere in the mid-level. Yeah, in order to push it to the next level, there would be a considerable investment necessary. And I don't see that happening for us right now. Never say never. But you know, like I said, if it would all of a sudden completely explode and we would be playing not like big venues but like stadiums or whatever, okay, then I might, you know, consider, because then probably the money I'd be making through the music would be much more than I'm making in the regular job. But as long as that's not the case, and that's still a long way to go, yeah, the risk doesn't seem to be worth it.
Right, exactly.
I leave that to others that are more risk taking.
Yeah, it's great. I love the situation. Your day job, music industry, copyright lawyer, right? Uh,
Right.
you've had to have heard about some really crazy stuff. Just cases that are very, indicative to what you're doing in the music industry. Are there odd cases like that where it's taught you to tread lightly in certain places, things you've learned through your job?
I mean, I think that the thing you learn in general, if you're like involved with law in any kind of way, is that you always want to have everything written. And especially in the music business and with artists, you know, artists usually become professional artists for a reason, and the reason is that A, they're good with their art, and B, they're bad with everything else. And that relates especially to, you know, business kind of stuff and all those boring things, you know, taxes and contracts and, you know, terms and conditions, which I understand, like that's not everybody's cup of tea. And a lot of times, you know, bands will form and then maybe they have some success or not or whatever, but then they break up and then there's a discussion, okay, what happens with the music, who has which rights, etc., etc. So that complicates things a lot of the time unnecessarily, because if you kind of write everything down from the beginning and have a clear picture of who owns which rights and who holds which rights and who is allowed to do what and what not, that like saves you so much time and energy that you can then spend actually doing your music instead of having to bother yourself with these kind of subjects. So this is what I would recommend to everybody, like every artist, like at least learn a little bit of basics about first of how to run a business, because you're going to be your own business. You should understand that. And it's not just playing music, it's about everything around it, including, you know, from the production to especially the marketing of your product. That's like in any other kind of business, you will need to market it, and marketing costs money. You don't get paid to market, you pay to do marketing. Very important distinction. And also learn a little bit of the legal basics about copyright law, and because those are the rights that you make your living off, and you should know that, just like any other company and any other business will know the legal framework for the sector that they're operating in. You should do that too for music. I know it's not the artist's forte usually, but the basics should be there.
Yeah, and that's great advice, because I don't think there's a whole lot of bands that are getting the paperwork done before they start making music, and
Yeah, right. That generally the idea is to get rich and famous with the music, to never have to do the paperwork.
right, that would be great. Yeah, of course. Is with this record, I see the 5 records you have. Anything you wanted to change or include on this record that you hadn't had on previous records?
Not specifically. I think it's just a natural development on how the songwriting changes over the years, because you listen to the different stuff at different times in your life, and these things will influence you for your songwriting. Like the power metal scene, the European power metal scene has changed a lot in the past 10-15 years. Like when I was growing up and being socialized with power metal, the bands of the hour were your Rhapsodies, With and Without Fire, Hammerfall, Sonata Arctica, Stratovarius, Edguy, Camelot, Avantasia, etc. So that is what influenced me a lot over the years and still does. But since then, we've had a slew of newer bands that have a little bit of a different approach. The Sabatones, Powerwolves, Beast in Black, that have a bit more this like lighthearted, bit more straightforward, not so complex songwriting sometimes, more synth, less orchestra. And I think we basically incorporated elements from both worlds in the new album more so than we did in the past. And I think that's what sets this record apart from our other stuff, that it's like kind of this half and half, the balance between the old school and the new school.
Yeah, and it's as always excellent. I love the progression. The production side of things, anything different. I mean, it's a really sharp sounding record, and I hear the orchestration, especially like on the title track and the intro.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it's so full and grandiose. I mean, it's just wonderful. It sounds even bigger, sharper.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that's definitely a change to previous records because this time we worked with Jacob Hansen for mix and mastering, and he's one of the best engineers in the metal world today. This was actually like say a blessing in disguise because originally we wanted to work again with Seb Leverman from Ordnogan, who did Viribus Unitis for us. Did a great job, and he's a cool guy. But he wasn't available because he had just produced their own album with Ordnogan. They were going on tour with that, so there wasn't really time to do a proper mix and master for us as well at the same time. So we had to kind of pivot last minute, and thankfully Jacob was available and he agreed to do it. And yeah, it was a great experience. He really understands what each song needs, and also doesn't really let his ego get in the way, even though he could have one, after all the many great productions he already did.
Right.
So that was really a great experience, and I think that adds the last bit of extra oomph to the sound, that you have like this really like international top level producer or sound engineer who is mixing and mastering your album.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, it's just so, like I say, it fills you up. You have to sit straight in your chair when you listen to it. It's pretty great. The opening song on the record after the intro is a song called Dream Chasers.
That's right.
It sounds to me very similar to what you did with Visions of Atlantis. You share a lead vocal, like you did with Clemmy in Visions of Atlantis. Who is the female voice first? It's great, but you don't do it anymore on the record.
Right.
So, was that intentional to steer away from that, to not get two Visions of Atlantis? Because you have two
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure, because we have this theme now with the privateers of the 16th century, and Visions of Atlantis have been doing like pirates themes for the last two albums. And then if you have the male-female vocal duetting throughout the entire album, it would look too much like, okay, I left Visions of Atlantis and now I'm doing my own Visions of Atlantis with blackjack and hookers. Yeah, right. So, so that's what it should not be. But for this specific song, it really worked because the song kicks off the story with actual history, where Queen Elizabeth I is giving Sir Walter Raleigh his charter to found this colony in North America. So I'm playing the part of Sir Walter Raleigh here, and Queen Elizabeth is played by our guest, and that's Ombre from Xandria doing the guest vocals here.
And she is great. It's great. I love that. I love that. Male, female, the pieces talking to each other, and just like the instrumentals, when everything talks together and comes together, and there's that gelling of musicianship. It's a wonderful song. Great way to kick off the record for sure. There's quite a few different sounds on this record. And I've heard you say that it's like a bucket list item for you to play with a full orchestra. And I would, for me too, it is. I would love to hear it. But there's a lot of strings and orchestration here. I mentioned the intro to the title cut, and from the New World, the intro to the album. I hear some like flute hurdy-gurdy sounds. I hear the strings. How are those brought into? Are they all keyboard MIDI kind of sounds, or do you have sessions?
Yeah, it's virtual instruments. So like the synths, basically every kind of synth and plugins for your sequencer software has those kind of things. And you can buy different kind of sound libraries, of course. And in terms of the like more real sounding orchestra, the virtual instruments, we always work with external orchestrator partners or friends, basically. In the past, it was Lukas Knöbel who did the orchestrations on our previous albums, and now this time he was also not available, but he recommended a good friend of his, and this time it was Lasse Elkjær from Denmark. He studied also film scoring and works in that kind of field, and he did the orchestration for those songs on the album that have a lot of orchestra. I think it's about half the songs, and all those orchestral parts were made by him, the arrangements for that.
Just crazy incredible. Just really wow. You wouldn't know there wasn't a full orchestra there. It's just like I say, it's grand, it's big, and it's beautiful. Really well done. I've heard a few things you've done away from Dragony. Starship cover, we built a city.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Really, really cool. Red Eye Temple.
Mhm.
The Brian Adams cover with Tommy
Yeah.
Johansson. Uh,
Yes.
really great stuff. Do you like doing sessions? Do you do sessions like this a lot? Do you like doing it?
Oh, I like doing it. I've not really done any recently. I had like a couple of requests to do, kind of guest appearances some years ago, mostly before the pandemic. Afterwards, it's been a little bit slow. Like, I don't actively go around like searching for new products. It's enough for me to try to manage Dragony next to the regular job. But if someone asks and if they want me to sing a part on their song or do some vocals, that's always fine. I'll just go to the studio, record it. It's cool.
Yeah, yeah. The David Hasselhoff cover might be my favorite.
I mean, that was even like a bonus track then for Shadow Play, so that was not even like the extraneous thing. Yeah.
That's great. It's a really cool tune. It's a little, on the cheesy, cliche side, but really, really
Yeah,
fun.
the song is very well written. I
It
think they knew
is.
exactly what they were doing, and yeah, we just felt okay. We had to get in on the fun at that time when a lot of people were doing covers, and yeah, we just went ahead and did it.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool. You write songs outside of the power metal genre at all? Do you ever think about doing like a solo record that's maybe a lot different?
The problem is, I think if I did a solo record, it would be just the same like Dragony, but probably like a
Okay.
rock opera with just like tons of guest singers. So that would be pretty similar. But what I would like to do if I ever have the time to actually have like a second kind of band, I would go for some lighthearted, like radio rock, like the Bon Jovi, Brian Adams kind of thing. That's not
Right.
always so challenging to sing, but that's like easily accessible and that has a bit more mainstream feel to it. Like I think that could be fun to do something like that.
Yeah, yeah. And I was thinking that when I'm listening to the things you're doing outside of Dragony and those few things and I thought, wow, I'd like to hear a record of like originals in that set in that genre, that simple radio friendly thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Really well done. How about a game soundtrack or a film soundtrack? I know you like gaming, and there's that fantasy of Dragony, that type of writing and things. Um, it reminds me of some gaming soundtrack music, and there's some great songs that come out of games, as well as film, of course. Have you ever thought about that world, the gaming or film?
We actually did that this year. There was the nice folks from Germany from a massive multiplayer online game called Albion Online. They're based in Berlin, and one of the guys is a
Okay.
huge metal fan, a fan of ours. And they were doing this little project that they wanted like a tie-in song for their game, for additional promo. And they asked us if we wanted to do that. And since we were just in the middle of the production for the album, we said, yeah, sure, let's do it. And then yeah, we kind of adapted lyrics to fit to the game. They organized a video shoot for us, something that would fit for them, and we did that and released that as a standalone single in April this year, basically in advance of the actual main album promotion. And the song is actually a bonus track on the album as well. So the song, "The Untold Story," is a official licensed video game song.
That's awesome. I saw that there, and Albion Online is after that, and it all makes sense now. That's beautiful. That's awesome. Would you like to do more of that with the game?
Absolutely.
That's got to be cool to see
That's
the
super cool.
song in a
And
game.
I'm a huge gamer, and yeah, like I would love to do that. I mean, we did a few game-inspired songs already. A lot of from the like Soulsborne games, one for Bloodborne, one for Dark Souls. I think Elden Ring might be next. We have to do something like that. I think it's so popular. It makes sense to go back to that side of Dragony, apart from the fantastical history that we're doing right now.
Yeah, that is awesome, man. That's cool. I'm here in North America. I'm here in the Chicagoland area. I would love to see Dragony here. I know how difficult that is. It's so difficult, so expensive.
Yeah.
Is a short north. You were in Mexico though. That's right past me. So
Yeah, but the funny thing was with this tour, everything was paid for. So we didn't need to spend €1. That was the crazy thing about it. And then when the promoter asked us if we wanted to do that, I thought, okay, someone's trying to scam us and probably take something. But like we did a background check a little bit and asked other bands that had worked with the guy before, and everybody was very positive, and it was true. Like everything was super well organized, no problems, everything was super nice. And so that then it's of course that we're there in a heartbeat. The same is for the US. Like if there's some, I don't know, rich millionaire that wants to finance a 2 weeks tour for Dragony throughout the US, just give me a call. We're
Yeah, that's pretty great. Could you get back with that same promoter that brought you to Mexico? Is that a possibility?
I mean, we'll see in the future. I mean, now the new album is out.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll work with him again if he's interested, and we would be happy to come back. Of course, it was a great experience. Yeah, anytime.
Yeah, well, we'd love to have you here in North America. I know that for sure. There's a big power metal is on the rise. I know. I see it as mainly a European thing. There's a few American bands. Seven Spires comes to mind, but
Lords of the Trident, yeah,
yeah,
like
right. But mainly a European thing. But we love that. I go to these shows and I see all the patches from the European bands and what you guys are doing there, and it's great to see it come alive here. It really is cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. You can read the whole synopsis of Hic Svnt Dracones on the website, which is really, really great. It's kind of it's the book, there, and you get the audio book with the record. So it's great for fans. It's really great that you do. Dragony.net is where you can find that. You can pre-order the album. Hic Svnt Dracones, October 11th, Steamhammer SPV record label. Siggy, it's great to have you here, and I hope you come back, man. My door is always open to you.
Thank you so much for having me. We hope the guys, your fans in the US, enjoy the album as much as you do, obviously. So yeah, thank you for the great in-depth interview. And yeah, hopefully we can make it to the US someday. Fingers crossed.
That would be great. That would be great. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.